This upcoming 3v1 multiplayer game is heavily inspired by Home Alone, with its over-the-top traps, goofy slapstick humor, and whimsical characters and outfits. I'm just hoping it finds the audience and staying power to stick around for a long time. Hey there, I'm CGDannyB, and I really like indie games. I like sharing them with you guys. And today I want to tell you about an upcoming game called Bandit Trap. So earlier this week, I got a behind closed doors look at Bandit Trap alongside with some of the developers from Pacomi. They invited me to a private Discord, we got to play with some of the developers and a bunch of other press. It was very, very cool. So first off, huge shout out to the devs for inviting me for such a cool opportunity. But right now I'm going to tell you about the game, how it played, what I thought about it, what I think it's going to look like in the future, etc, etc. So if you're looking forward to Bandit Trap and any other kind of indie gaming previews, be sure to subscribe to the channel right now so you don't miss any of that great content. Now, let's talk about Bandit Trap. Okay, so you have no idea what this game is. I'm going to read you the Steam description real quick. Defend your home using inventive booby traps as the trapper, or team up as 3 sneaky bandits and try to escape with the loot. Bandit Trap is a wild 3v1 online multiplayer game bursting with pranks, physics-driven mayhem, and laugh-out-loud moments. Perfect for parties, friends, and family game night. Now, some of you guys might have seen me cover this game earlier this year on TikTok, YouTube Shorts, Instagram Reels, whatever, because I got to fly out to LA for Summer Game Fest and play an early build then. And the game's changed just a little bit since then, but for the most part, it felt pretty much similar to how I played it back in June. Which by no means is a bad thing. I loved it to death back then, and I love the time I got with it now. So like I said, Bandit Trap is this 3v1 multiplayer game where one of you plays as the trapper and the other 3 play as the bandits. When you're playing as the trapper, you get a couple minutes to place traps around the house. You are jumping between 4 different towers that allow you to place different traps that'll include launching fist, homing rockets, flamethrowers, ice beams, water guns, all kinds of different junk. Then once the countdown ends, the bandits are going to come into the house and they're going to try and destroy all the furniture that they can and find the hidden jewels that you have around the house. So while the bandits are running around the house trying to find all the hidden treasure, you are jumping between different pieces of furniture and sliding through vents, trying to activate traps and do damage to them. That way you can get them out of your home. Your goal as the trapper is to do 100% damage to the bandits. I don't know what exactly that entails mathematically, just every time you do damage, you do a percentage. It's not like you die as the bandits. You can get staggered, but you don't end and leave and oh no, now it's 2v1. Like you just kind of stagger for a minute and then come back. But you will have a meter at the top of your screen that shows how much damage you've done, and once you hit that 100%, you win. And as you complete matches as the trapper, you're going to unlock new upgrades for your traps. So one of the big things they mentioned that there are combo traps you're going to be able to get, and the one that I unlocked was the fire fist. So what you'll be able to do is at the start of a round, instead of setting up a fist in one spot and a flamethrower in another, you'll be able to pick the fist and then go to a secondary menu which lets you turn it into the flaming fist. The difference is this will take up 2 of your inventory slots compared to the 1 you would get for each other item. And that's how they balance it out, because it's a much stronger item, but also, yeah, you can't have a million of these different things. That'd be crazy. And they said some things you'll find out later in the game as you're leveling up more and more is that some of your weapons are going to be multi-level. For example, they had one that was like turning on water so it would flood the floors and then freeze it. So it would kind of overflow the top level and then drench down to the bottom. Now, if you're not playing as the trapper, you're playing as the bandit, which I think early game felt like they had a much easier job than the trapper did. So while the trapper is setting up all their different traps around the house, you are in this pre-game lobby picking your loadout. And the loadout options will continue to evolve as you play the game and level up and get new perks, but to start you get to pick one of 3 scanners. All that'll let you scan the house and see which pieces of furniture are hiding treasure. I didn't get to play with all of them, but I know there's at least one scanner that looks at an item and scans it quickly and says yes or no whether there's treasure in here. Whereas you have another one that's a little bit of a wider span and it will scan multiple items, and if it gives you an X, none of these items have treasure in it. If any of them come up with little jewels, they'll tell you yes, one of these items has treasure. So you kind of have to break all of them individually and figure out which one it is. Personally, I liked that one that gave me the wider spread. That way I could kind of look at more items at once, and then I would just get really good at the mini games to destroy those items. But speaking of the mini games, when you start with your loadout, you also get to pick 2 different perks. And there's 2 different types of weapons in the game. There's regular hardware and there's power tools. I had to ask this during the preview because I wasn't sure what made something more effective or not, but if you're using the regular hardware such as hammers, crowbars, screwdrivers, those items are meant for unlocking doors. So they're going to be far more proficient at getting into the house and getting out of the house than they are for other uses such as destroying furniture. And then yes, the power tools are for destroying furniture. So you have like a power washer, you have like a special grinding blade kind of deal. Different things like that are going to be better for destroying couches, fridges, arcade cabinets, whatever you may have to try and find the treasure inside of. Now it seems like the best way to play the bandits is to divide and conquer and find as much treasure as you can before the trapper can stop you. The problem is when you're separated, if the trapper's really good, they can go activate traps and do a bunch of damage to one individual bandit and kind of leave them staggered on their own. If you're staggered as the bandit, a friend can come and pick you up and revive you so that you're back to full action. But if you're too far away from that, they'll kind of just hobble around for a minute and then eventually you'll get your actions back. So I can see playing with randos as being a very difficult, like, oh my god, my team's not helping me. If you're playing with a cohesive team who's actually talking it out, I can see you being just this force to be reckoned with. And that's the reason I think I say that it's much easier to be the bandit than it is to be the trapper. As a trapper, I struggled quite a bit at first, being able to place all of my items in time and zip around the house to where I needed to be. Now, I did get a few pieces of advice from the developers as we were playing. When you're doing that pre-setup phase, you can teleport between these different trap towers just by hitting the LB and the RB, which made it much quicker for me to set up everything and get all the traps I needed before the bandits even got into the house. Which ended up being the reason I finally won a round as the trapper, and it made a lot more sense. But I can see as the bandits get more perks that will counteract my traps, being like, oh, I have fireproof things available to me, iceproof things available to me. It's going to be more challenging as the trapper, and I'm going to need more of those combo items to do more damage to the bandits. And this is one of the things I'd asked the developers about balance, because it seems like you're going to unlock items as you level up. Now in the playtest, they told me everything was going to be randomized. We're going to see which different items show up. But in the full game, there's going to be a very specific path of progression, which I did have a question about when it came to balance. So they said for the trapper, if I have a certain list of items that I have, what's stopping me from just not using those items because I know what levels the bandits are going to get? For example, as the bandit, I unlocked like a fireproof armor, which gave me 1 slot of damage, which would negate fire damage. So I said, if I'm the trapper and I'm just like, oh, they all have fire damage resistance, just don't use fire. I'll just use ice, water, whatever. Now they said this would be different because it's only a minimal amount of defense. It's not like you have permanent fire resistance for the whole match, which I guess makes sense. But then at that point, I'm curious why it matters to have fire resistance at all, if it's just one instance. So it might be something I have to play with more to understand it fully, but it didn't quite seem like the balance was off by any means. Something else that was very cool is when you go to start a match, you have that classic Call of Duty map selection. Like I remember playing Black Ops 1 where you get to see which 2 maps or random do you want to do. You'll have 3 maps come across the screen and they're all different houses. There's a winter retreat, there's like a tropical bungalow, there's a typical townhouse, all kinds of different locations. And I'm sure they're going to add many more maps as we go. So the bandits get to vote on which of those 3 houses they want to try and raid into. And then the trapper will set up all their different obstacles before anyone shows up. Now, an important question I forgot to ask during the preview is about pricing, and I shot an email to my contact, but they're out of the office till Monday, so I don't have the answers quite yet. But something I think is really important for multiplayer games now is knowing whether it's going to be free to play or be a price title, and I think this one feels like it'd be right at home as a free to play release because it has those upgrades and cosmetics and battle pass systems, but it doesn't seem like there's any kind of paid currency to do that. So I'm erring on the side that this is going to be a premium title that you'll pay a flat rate for. And then the game will just update and have different seasons and maps and etc. as you go. Again, don't quote me on that. That's just my assumptions based on the UI and everything else. Now, assuming it's not a free-to-play title, one of my only concerns is finding a place for this game to stick out in a market that has so many free-to-play titles. I know a lot of my audience are kids who are like, hey mom, can I get the credit card to buy this $20, $30 game? And they're like, no, do your homework, etc., etc. So having something like a Marvel Rivals or a Fortnite is a lot easier for kids to dive into when they don't have to pay for it. And then of course I think about the potential of it having that Rocket League launch where you have it on PlayStation Plus and Game Pass and everything else on launch, and hopefully it finding an audience that it sticks around with. All that to say, I think this game is very, very fun. I think people are going to have a great time playing it, but I think having that paywall to get into it might be a detriment for it finding an audience at launch. Now let me be clear, that's not me saying that you shouldn't pay for this game. I think if this game comes out at $20, totally worth the price. I think if you have 3 friends to play it with and you want to jump between who's the bandit, who's the trapper, I think this game's going to be a blast. I just think for someone who might be playing single player trying to find matchmaking, it might not be worth that price of admission. But all that to say, Bandit Trap was really freaking fun. I cannot wait to see it evolve, and this game's going to be out very, very soon. And if you want to check it out for yourself, the playtest is available on Steam. You can go to the Steam page, request access, and get to play a little bit early. Or if you just want to wait for the full release, this game comes out on February 6th. It's going to be on Steam, Epic Games Store, Switch 2, PlayStation 5, and the Xbox Series consoles. Thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know what you think of Bandit Trap. Are you going to pick it up for yourself, or are you going to hold off on this one? And of course, if you enjoyed the content, be sure to like the video and subscribe for more indie gaming goodness.